Today, let's learn the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. This is a powerful expression of the sufferings of the Afro Americans and the long for freedom and equality, which is written by Maya Angelou, who is a powerful feminist writer of the Afro American ethnicity. Actually, she is born on April 4, 1928, in Louis, Missouri, in America. Her name was Margaret Annie Johnson, and it is her brother Bailey who has given her the name Maya. At the age of 3, her parents divorced and she had to live along with her grandparents. And this was a time where there was racial discrimination prevalent, and she had to suffer a lot, not because of being an Afro American, but because of being a woman. And at the age of 7, she did not even speak for 5 years. At this juncture, her teacher, Bertha Flowers, who has inspired her to write poetries, write something in literature, which has helped her to regain her power of speech. She is renowned as a poet, novelist, memorist, dramatist, actress, and civil rights activist. Her important works include a series of autobiographies like I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, Get Together in My Name, Signing and Swinging, Getting Merry Like Christmas, The Heart of a Woman, and All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes. Her books writings include children's books, cookbook, and Elder Grace, Nobility of Aging, etc. If you look into the title of the poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. The caged bird is a symbolical expression of the black Americans. So there are two birds mentioned in the poem. One is white Americans, and the other is there are two birds mentioned in the poem. One is caged bird, other is the free bird. Free bird is represented by white Americans, and the caged bird is represented by black Americans. Through this poem, Maya Angelou is trying to explain or give us example through the literature. We can even raise our voice against freedom. If you look into this poem, we have six stanzas. Each stanza of the poem starts with a capital letter, and the rest of the stanzas are seen in small letters. It has no specific rhyme scheme as well. Themes of the poem are freedom versus enslavement, racism and slavery, and voice against oppression. All these three themes are represented by giving the example of the conditions and problems faced by the free bird, as well as faced by the caged bird, and in comparison with the freedom enjoyed by the free bird. So what are the themes of the poem? Freedom versus enslavement, racism and slavery, voice against oppression. Now let us read each stanza and learn the meaning of the poem. Also, let us look into the figure of speeches being used in the poem as well. So Maya Angelou herself is an Afro-American writer. A free bird. So before starting, let me also discuss that there are two birds being mentioned in the poem. One is free bird, who is symbolically symbolically represents white Americans. Second is the caged bird, who is symbolically represented by black Americans. Free bird seems to be living a life full of dignity, grandeur and infinite possibilities. Whereas caged bird, who is presented here as a person who leads a life of fear, longing, and subjugation. when the free bird continues to live and enjoy and broadens the horizons, caged bird continues to sink deeper and deeper into the negation of his own existence. Yet, caged bird still continues to sing and desire for his freedom. First stanza. A free bird leaps on his own on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wing in the orange rays and dares to claim the sky. Poem begins with a striking image of the free bird leaping on the back of the wind, which means that it's flying with the wind. The wind carries the bird along with and floats downstream till the current ends, which means that circumstances are really favorable for the free bird, that it slowly moves along with the current of the wind. Or in other way we can say current takes him along and dips his wing in the orange sun rays. The bird is able to fly and understand and unrestricted and able to enjoy the beauty of the sunset. The words here downstream and the dips evoke the image of the bird who is able to assert the right of everything. It's also represented by sunset over a river. It shows the freedom that ultimately enjoyed by the free bird and dares to claim the sky. Because of its freedom, the free bird has limitless possibilities, limitless grandeur, and limitless resources. Therefore, he claims that the whole sky belongs to him. So, in this stanza, for the second line, we say, on the back of the wind. Here, wind is given a human characteristics of carrying something. Therefore, we can find the figure of speech personification over there. So second line near to that you can write personification because the wind is given human characteristics of carrying something. And when we come to the last line, that is, and dares to claim the sky, here poet has used an exaggeration of limitless possibilities of the free bird. Therefore, we can get the figure of speech as hyperbole. Hyperbole is used when an over exaggeration is being used rather than what is supposed to be given. So here an exaggeration is given with related to the possibilities enjoyed by the free bird. Therefore, we can call this line as hyperbole, example of hyperbole. So I would also suggest you to write few words, okay, which keywords, so that you can understand the meaning of the poem very easily. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind. Near to that, the right side, nearby the right side of these two lines, we can write favorable. So these lines shows the favorable conditions that are led to the free bird, that it can move around freely. Then the next line, and floats downstream till the current ends. So it shows that it's a free movement. It glides smoothly and dips his wings in the orange rays. It shows the unrestricted movement and dares to claim the sky. It shows that there is no limit for it. It asserts all its rights. So these words will help you to understand the meaning. These keywords will help you to understand the whole meaning of the poem. The first two lines nearby the right side you can write favorable because the conditions or situations are really favorable for the free bird. And next third and fourth line you can write the keyword glides smoothly. It is completely free to move everywhere. And fifth and sixth line you can write unrestricted. There is no restriction for the free bird to move around. And the last line you can write no limit. It is limitless. That is why it claims that the whole sky belongs to him. The word downstream and dips shows the sunset over a river. So you can write this word sunset over a river at the left side of the poem, the lines, poetic lines. Hope you understood the first stanza. The first stanza we see the poet has expressed the freedom enjoyed by the limitless possibilities enjoyed by the free bird. It moves completely free through the wind, and it is being led by the current of the wind. It is able to enjoy the orange sunrise from the sky, and therefore it claims that the whole sky belongs to him because of the complete freedom enjoyed by the bird, free bird. So this symbolically expresses the complete freedom enjoyed by the white Americans. Now, second stanza. But a bird that stalks down the narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The second stanza shows us completely a contrasting condition of the caged bird over here. While the free bird who lives in circumstances that is really favorable, and so it claims that the entire sky belongs to him. But on the other hand, caged bird is confined in the narrow cage, which is completely restricted. The free bird is completely free, therefore it claims that the whole sky belongs to him. On the other hand, the caged bird is restricted, completely restricted. It's confined under the narrow cage. But the free bird that stalks down the narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. The caged bird cannot have an idea of the limitless possibilities enjoyed by the free bird. He can hardly see anything because it is restricted in the bars of the cage. What are those bars of cage now? The question arises, what are those bars of cage? These are nothing but the racial discrimination and subjugation imposed upon the black Americans. So, what are the bars of rage? Bars of rage are the racial discrimination and subjugation imposed on the black Americans by the white. His wings are clipped and feet are tied. Now, this line shows the physical sufferings of the caged bird. Is actually caged in, and along with that, his wings are clipped, feet are tied, therefore, its movements are completely restricted. It can hardly move in the narrow cage up and down. So the fear of the black Americans are being expressed in these lines. So he opens his throat to sing. All opportunities are denied to the caged bird because its wings are clipped and feet are tied. It can hardly move around the narrow cage. So, at its desperation, it opens its mouth to sing. Now the question is, under this situation, what can it sing of? Let us find what it is going to sing about in the next stanza. So we can write a few keywords in order to understand this poem. First two lines, but the bird that stalks down the narrow cage. We can write the word confined or restricted. The restriction with regard to the movement of the caged bird is mentioned. And third and fourth line, on the left hand side, you can write hatred of the white, the freedom of the white which is being restricted by the white. So the hatred for the white. His wings are clipped and feet are tied, which represents the opportunities, lack of opportunities. So we can write no opportunity. The last line, he opens his throat to sing. So shows it can hardly move. So it can hardly express its emotions. So this stanza shows the feelings of the Black Americans. Here, can seldom see through. See, seldom. Sir sound is repeated. Therefore, we get a figure of speech over there, that is alliteration. When the sound is repeated, we can name that line as alliteration. So the first stanza given us a detailed information with regard to the enjoyment or the freedom enjoyed by the white Americans through the example of free bird. And on the other, the second stanza, we have also seen the restricted movements of the Black Americans represented by the caged bird. Now, third stanza. The caged bird sings with fearful thrill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings freedom. Here, caged bird is represented as a person who is terribly under fear. And what is that fear? What does he fear? And these fears are nothing but harassment, torture, and even death, fear of death, fear of harassment, fear of torture. Let's remember now Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who alongside Maya Angelou fought for the civil rights, and both were killed. The caged bird sings with fearful thrill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill. Although the caged bird is completely under fear, it, even if it is denied of freedom, denied of opportunities, even it doesn't know to some extent what are the possibilities enjoyed by by the free bird, yet it doesn't stop longing for freedom. Therefore, it opens his mouth to sing under the fear also. Freedom is granted for everyone. It's a human right. So the caged bird also considers his freedom of choice to sing, so that it has a great confidence in the mind that under the fear, if it sings loudly, its voice will be heard in the distant skies. Those distant skies means its struggle against freedom can be heard by the thousands, and they will certainly be motivated. Therefore, along with them, they can enjoy the freedom. They can lead a life which is completely free, just like the white Americans, or at least they can have an equal right along with the white Americans. Therefore, the caged bird sings for freedom. So the caged bird cannot stop fighting against all odds and reach the destiny. Therefore, even out of fear, it sings for freedom. The caged bird sings with a fearful thrill. In this line, we get an auditory image, so example of imagery. The first two lines can be described by the word harassment and torture and death. So you can write on the right hand side of the two lines harassment, death, and torture. Of things unknown but longed for still, it can be represented with the word human rights. It's a human right to march for freedom or ask for freedom, work for freedom, or we can say cry for help. And the free bird sings of freedom. It shows struggle of the caged bird towards freedom. So the first two lines, the right hand side you can write harassment, torture and death in order to understand. And to the fourth and fifth line you can write human rights or cry for help. And the last line you can write struggle. So this stanza tells us that under the fearful situation, caged bird doesn't lose hope, rather sings for the freedom, so that it can motivate others and let them also get confidence to fight for their freedom. Because the poetess considers that freedom is something that is enjoyed by everyone. It is a human right. Now, fourth stanza. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and trade wings soft through the sighing trees. And the fat worms waiting on the dawn bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. The free bird, having enjoyed all the opportunities and freedom, starts looking for the newer things. It's quite normal with everyone, isn't it? After enjoying something for a long time, we always look for the newer ones. So, here the free bird is looking for new opportunities. And trade winds soft through the sighing trees. And it means that new opportunities, the free bird is able to explore and experience the trade winds blowing through the distant sky, so a distant sighing trees, which means it is looking for the new opportunities. And trade through the soft wind sighing trees. It means it's able to move towards the newer places and experience new things, longing for getting new things, because it has its own freedom. And the fat worms waiting on the dawn bright sun, it has its own complete freedom of choice of food, that it can fly and enjoy the worms. Where are the worms? That are at the lawn which is being brightly lighted up by the dawn. It means that for the white, everything is made convenient. It is completely free. It can enjoy anything. All the resources of the world are laid down to the white man and not to the black. And he names the sky his own. The white is not even able to understand the problems faced by the black. Therefore, he just thinks of his own pleasure, his own enjoyment, his own opportunities. And he looks for the new opportunities and new resources the world offers to him. And he doesn't even consider sharing it with the black men. So here we see the selfishness of the white, which is being represented by the free movement and craving for the new things, which is being which is being explained with the example of the white free bird. So in the same way, the free bird looks for the newer opportunities. White looks for the new opportunities and new resources that are being laid down to them by the world, but doesn't even aware of the hardships or the problems faced with the black Americans. Worms waiting on the dawn bright lawn. Here we have a repetition of the sound "were," so it is also an example for alliteration. And the line, the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, is example of personification, because the trees are given human characteristics of sighing. The names sky his own. He names the sky his own. It is again an over exaggeration, therefore we get the figure of speech hyperbole over there. So in this stanza we have found three figure of speeches. The last line is hyperbole because over exaggeration, because the free bird considers that all opportunities that are being laid onto him by the world, waiting worms represents the same sound, therefore alliteration. And we have second line where the human characteristics are given to the trees, so we have the figure of speech personification. The first line also we get an example of alliteration, that is, the free bird thinks of another breeze. Breeze and bird sound is repeated, so it is alliteration. So better understanding of this line, we can write the words close to the line, like another breeze is representing newer opportunities. So you can write the right side, newer opportunities. Trade winds through the sighing trees. Near to that you can write, it is able to explore and experience newer things. Worms waiting on a dawn bright morn, which means that resources are laid down to him. All opportunities are laid down to the world, to him by the world. Now let us move on to the next stanza, fifth stanza. The caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on the night waves scream. His wings are clipped and feet are tied, and he opens his throat to sing. Here in this stanza, the poet is expressing, caged bird stands at the grave of dreams. The beginning of the stanza, the caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. It shows that caged birds' dreams are under stake, which means it is almost dead, which is a deadliest thing that anyone can have. If there are no dreams, there are no hopes. So life is nothing without a hope for fortunes. His shadow shouts on nightmare's stream. His dreams are dead, and every existence of the caged bird is restricted, negotiated. The caged bird is not even sure of its identity. That is why it has become a shadow. The caged bird has no identity of his own. He is not able to understand his identity. That is why it has become a shadow. His wings are clipped and feet are tied, and opens his throat to sing. Still, it makes all his efforts. His movements are restricted because his wings are clipped and feet are tied. Yet, it didn't lose hope, struggle for freedom. That is why it sings loudly. He opens his throat to sing for freedom. Although it looks like a nightmare, it doesn't lose hope to fight for freedom. Sing for freedom or fight for freedom is the only thing that can liberate the caged bird. So raise the voice and fight for freedom is the only thing left for the white man. So the poetess has already used the power of her thoughts through the literary works in order to fight for freedom of the black Americans. Now moving on to the next stanza. The caged bird sings. In the stanza, the first line, but a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on the nightmare scream. First line is example of personification. Caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. Dreams are given human characteristics. Shadow shouts and nightmares scream. So sir sound is repeated several times, so we get the example of alliteration over there. Now let's move on to the last stanza. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings for freedom. This is actually a repetition of the third stanza, which is being used by the poet to emphasize the distressing condition of the caged bird. This is being used by the poet in order to, this is being repeated by the poet in order to stress that no matter how helpless or frustrating the conditions are, the caged bird didn't lose hope to fight for freedom or sing for freedom, which will, of course, give an expression to his sufferings, a thirst for freedom. It is very confident that this song will be heard to the distant shores, far and wide, so that the black will struggle for freedom, raise their voice against the oppression faced by them from the white people. They will fight for liberation. So the repetition of this line is given to emphasize the distressing condition of the caged bird. Even under this distressing condition, the caged bird doesn't lose hope, so it raises its voice to sing for freedom, so that the thousands can be influenced and motivated, and they together can raise their voice for the freedom. So altogether, if you say that caged bird is symbolically represented by the caged bird, white Americans are represented by the caged bird, and the black Americans are represented. Sorry, the white Americans are represented symbolically represented by the free bird, and the black Americans are represented by the caged bird. So caged bird is symbolically an expression of the black Afro-Americans, black Americans, and free bird is symbolically an expression of white Americans who experienced and enjoyed all freedom that time. Hope you understood the poem. So there are a lot of questions which are being given in your workbook. Please do comprehend based on your understanding of the poem, and later we can discuss all the questions in the class. Hope you will do. So you have a lot of time now left. Therefore, make use of this time to comprehend the passages and read this. Now we don't have a chance to clarify your doubts, therefore these doubts can be clarified. All of your doubts will be clarified when you comprehend the passages. And all these questions and their answers will be discussed in the class. Thank you.